teaching in the United States of America versus the rest of the world. Interested to see what we got here. I have no idea what to expect. This is from Vox. It'll be linked down below so you can check them out. And this is a Discord suggestion from Ahsoka. Thank you very much. Here we go.
This is Anna. She just graduated from college in the United States. And this is Sophia.
Ooh.
She also just graduated from college.
I feel bad for Anna from the U.S. because, well, it should be a happy day, but unfortunately she probably has like 150 grand in student debt. So
in
Oof.
Finland.
Finland,
Anna and
all right.
Sophia both want to be middle school teachers, but it turns out there's a good chance their experiences will be very different.
I don't doubt that.
So different that Anna is twice as likely as Sophia to leave teaching for good.
Oof.
That's causing a problem. The supply of new certified teachers in the United States is shrinking.
Which, before they even get into this, may I say, there's probably a teacher shortage here because it's a really important job. It's a really, I think it's a very tough job, right? There's a lot of pressure on you, and it's a job that involves, you know, changing lives, right? I mean, you're molding kids, helping them figure out the world, right? Coming up in whatever grade you're teaching in. And there's a lot that goes into it, right? With the classroom, with the curriculum, you know, your teaching style, the ability to connect with them. So it's a complex job. And quite frankly, from what I've heard, they just do not make enough. If it's a job that they're not getting enough benefits, they're not getting enough pay, why go through the bother, right? They're doing too much and getting back too little.
But the number of public school students keeps growing.
Massive teacher shortages.
Warnings about teacher turnover.
Educators call Colorado's teacher shortage a crisis.
So what makes Sophia stay and Anna leave? And how can the United States keep more of its teachers in the classroom?
Gonna have to make some stuff happen, I imagine.
In the U.S., teachers work about 9.25 hours a day.
Ooh.
That's an hour and a half longer than the average for teachers in other countries in the Organization for Economic Development, or OECD for short. That's a group of mostly wealthy countries that economists often compare to one another.
Alrighty.
Teachers in the U.S. work more than 2.5 hours longer than their colleagues in South Korea, Finland, and Israel.
Wow.
There are some countries with similar teacher work hours to the United States, like New Zealand, Singapore, and the UK.
Okay.
Teachers in Japan, for example, work nearly 2 hours more per day than teachers in the US.
That's a big nope.
But in all of these countries, teaching hours are much lower. Of the 9.25 hours that American teachers work every day, they spend about 5.5 of those hours actually teaching. That's more than the OECD average, and significantly more than teachers in New Zealand, the UK, South Korea, Japan, and Singapore. Teachers in these countries get more time for planning, grading, and collaborating with each other. So do all those extra teaching hours translate to better results?
I don't know.
Students in the U.S. score slightly above the OECD average on the PISA exam,
Well, that's a relief.
which tests 15-year-olds all over the world in reading, science, and math. But they score lower than students in countries like Finland, South Korea, Japan, and Singapore, where teaching hours are much lower.
Right.
If we look inside Anna and Sophia's classrooms in the U.S. and Finland, we'd see Anna teaching an hour and a half more per day than Sophia. Anna also spends more time planning lessons, grading student work, and leading extracurricular activities. But those extra hours aren't necessarily reflected in Anna's paycheck.
No.
If you compare Sophia to other people in Finland with college degrees, she makes about 98 cents for every dollar that they make. That's on par with the pay ratio between teachers and college graduates in similar countries. But Anna and other American middle school teachers only make about 65 cents for every dollar that their college-educated peers make.
Wow, that's quite a lot lower. Like, it's a big dip, right? That's part of the problem, man. Like, teaching is very important. I'm not sure why this isn't considered more, like, valuable, right? At least in the U.S.
Still, as politicians in the U.S. never tire of pointing out,
We spend more per student than almost any country, I think.
Than nearly every other country in the developed world.
But
yes, we spend way more, right, than most countries. That's what I've always heard, but let's see what they say.
It varies a lot by state. New York spends twice as much as California on each student. Mississippi spends less than half as much as Alaska.
That's the crazy thing about the U.S. It's one of the parts I love about it, but it's also one of the parts that makes it complicated as well. You got to remember the United States, that's in the name, right? It's 50 states that all have their own direction, their own way of doing things. And so things are slightly different. I mean, yeah, it's all part of one country, but it really can feel a lot different. I've lived in 2 different states, and let me tell you, between the food, the looks, the scenery, way things were run, day-to-day life, everything, all of the above was totally different. Sometimes it was hard to believe, like, wow, this is the same country. So that's the point. That's something that's interesting about it, but then as a whole, it also makes it hard to generalize, oh, the USA does this or the USA does that, because so many states are different. You saw the difference between New York, Alaska, California, and Mississippi. Drastic differences there, especially between New York and Mississippi.
And American schools generally spend a lot more on security and other non-instructional costs than schools in other countries.
Which, I'm not going to go there. It's just very sad. That's sad.
Plus, if you look at the share of its national wealth, or GDP, that each country spends on education, you can see there are plenty of countries spending a bigger share than the U.S.
Okay.
There's one other difference between Anna and Sophia. When they're asked whether people in their country value teachers, 2 out of 3 Finnish teachers say yes. But just 1 in 3 American teachers agree.
Right.
There are a lot of reasons why teachers like Anna leave the classroom. But if the U.S. wants to keep more of them around, we might want to take a few pages from Finland's book.
Okay, so what I can draw from that is a lot of these countries, as we said earlier, it comes down to value, right? I feel like being a teacher is taken a little more seriously and valued there. Now, of course, I can't generalize, as we said earlier, but some Americans I feel like do value teaching a lot, and then some of them act like it's a passive job, like, oh, you're a teacher, okay, so you didn't become something bigger, right? That's like the viewpoint on it for some Americans. And right therein lies the problem, right? It should be a valuable job, right up there with a lot of other quote-unquote valuable jobs. So that's a pretty simple explanation as to part of the problem here, I suppose. So the teacher thing, it is pretty weird. I guess I'm lucky I got through school safely and, with teachers, because nowadays it just seems like every year there's more and more of a teacher shortage, at least here in the U.S. So it's pretty bizarre, and it is a crisis, I think, and something needs to be done about it. It's a very complex job. They have a lot to balance, and, like I said, it's a very important job. Not to mention they just have to be in a culture where they are valued. So they take pride in their job and they feel like what they're doing is worth something. Of course, everyone's experiences are going to be different. I'm sure some people really, really knock on the American school system, and I'm sure some people praise it for different reasons. Obviously, I don't know enough about other countries' schooling and teacher pros and cons to really comment on it, as this was just a very brief look on it. But look, it's very interesting. I feel like it's important to get that kind of information out there and make you think a bit to hopefully make everyone better. Throw a like on there if you enjoyed this one. And, of course, subscribe to be part of this amazing community we do have here. My name is Ian. You're watching IWrocker. Until next time, y'all. I'll catch you later.